let's talk about one of the biggest industries on the entire planet, construction. I mean, these are the people who literally build our world. But here's the thing, it's hiding a massive, almost invisible problem. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the digital blueprint that's ready to fix it right now. What you're looking at is a huge number, 40%. According to people who study this stuff, that's roughly the amount of waste that's just baked into a typical construction project. 40%. Think about that. That's almost half of every single dollar we spend building our roads, our bridges, our entire infrastructure, just lost. It's a truly staggering figure, and it tells you the system is fundamentally broken. So where in the world does all that waste come from? Well, it's not just one thing. It's the whole system. The old way of doing things is this chaotic mess of thousands of separate paper-based agreements. Every single person involved, from the owner all the way down to the smallest supplier, is basically stuck in their own little bubble, retyping the same information over and over and trying to shove risk onto the next person in line. It's a system that's pretty much built for conflict, not for collaboration. Okay, so let's really break down the core issue here. It all boils down to disconnected data. And we're going to see how that one simple thing creates all the conflict, all the cost, and all the headaches that plague these massive, essential projects. You know, the difference between the old way and the new way is just night and day. Traditionally, you've got the owner, the main contractor, the suppliers. Everybody has their own separate system. They're all manually typing in data, which of course leads to tons of errors and a bunch of conflicting versions of the truth. The future, though, is a connected world where everyone plugs into the exact same standardized data. There's no retyping, no conflicting reports, just one single source of truth for everyone. And the other side of that same coin is risk. The old way treats risk like a hot potato. The project owner tosses it to the contractor, who tosses it to the subcontractor. Everybody bakes the cost of that risk into their price, which means the same potential problem gets paid for again and again down the line. The new model just completely flips out on its head. When you have transparent, shared data, risk becomes something you manage together. It becomes a shared goal where everyone is working to make the project succeed. So if the problem is that everybody's speaking in different language and no one's connected, then the solution is pretty clear, right? We have to create a common digital language, a way for every single player in this huge ecosystem to talk to each other perfectly and instantly. And that language has a name. It's called XBRL. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually really simple. Think of XBRL like a universal barcode for business information. It's an open, federally recognized standard that digitally tags a piece of data from one company's computer so that any other computer can read it and understand it perfectly. No manual work required. It's basically a universal translator for project data. And here's the best part. We are not starting from scratch here. Not at all. XBRL is a proven, robust standard that's already out there. It's the foundation for what's called the International Digital Ecosystem Architecture, or IDEA. This system also uses something called the Legal Entity Identifier, the LEI, which is like a global ID number for any business. When you put XBRL and the LEI together, you create this incredibly reliable and interoperable system. And this lines up perfectly with government directives like the Data Act, which requires standardized data to make federal spending way more transparent and efficient. So, to get this whole ecosystem off the ground, the focus is on standardizing 4 key pieces of information first. You've got the contractor's qualifications, then the surety bond, which is basically the insurance policy guaranteeing the job gets done, then, of course, the contract itself, and finally, the application for payment. By taking these super critical paper documents and turning them into standardized digital data, we can unlock a level of efficiency that was just impossible before. Okay, this is where things get truly game-changing. Because once you have this common language and you've digitized those key pieces of data, you can completely reimagine how you handle risk, especially when it comes to that surety bond we just talked about. Just look at the difference here. The traditional way, a surety bond is a piece of paper that gets filed away in a drawer somewhere. The surety company only shows up when something has gone horribly wrong, which naturally creates a tense, adversarial relationship. But in this next-gen digital world, that surety bond is a live, digital asset. The surety can get access to real-time project data, which allows them to be a proactive partner, helping to spot and solve problems before they become huge crises. This quote just nails it. The surety becomes a productive and positive risk management partner. But for this incredible shift to happen everywhere, we need one crucial thing: a trusted, simple way to verify these digital bonds. And that is exactly where the Treasury Department can step in. By updating their official list of approved sureties, it's called the T-list, to include the legal entity identifier for each company and a simple web link to validate their bonds digitally, they would create the single, authoritative source of truth that secures this entire ecosystem. All right, we've talked about the problem, we've talked about the big idea, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's get to the payoff, because this isn't just theory. This digital transformation is already creating massive value on real projects today. Let's take one of the biggest infrastructure projects in the entire country, the California High-Speed Rail. They're pioneering an approach where the 3D digital model of the project is the legal contract. Having that single source of truth is driving incredible improvements in everything, from standardizing how things get done, to managing risk based on the model, to making sure billing is perfectly accurate. It gives every single stakeholder a crystal clear view of the project's progress. And get ready for another jaw-dropping number. The Utah Department of Transportation started making the 3D digital model the legal contract for their projects. And guess what happened? The bids they got back from contractors started coming in 20 to 30% lower than their estimates. 20 to 30%! And why? Because all the guesswork was gone. Contractors had perfect clarity, which removed a huge amount of risk and cost from the whole process. And it gets even better, because once you have this ecosystem of standardized data, it becomes a launch pad for all sorts of new innovations. For instance, there are now initiatives funding people to build AI tools that can take old PDF payment forms and automatically convert them into high-quality, actionable data. This doesn't just help with old records, it actually opens up brand new ways to get financing, especially for the small and local businesses who can now show capital markets exactly what they're doing. So let's bring this all home. The really key thing to understand here is that this isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea for the future. The standards, the technology, the proof that it works, it's all here, right now. The digital blueprint for how we can build our future better has already been written. Which really brings us to the final thought. We have a proven way to get rid of hundreds of billions of dollars in waste. A way to build projects with more collaboration and less conflict. A way to finish them faster and on budget. The blueprint is here. So the only question left is, what are we waiting for?